He thought it was just a joke. A rich man, a street sweet stand, and one careless sentence meant to impress a stranger. He didn't know that in less than a minute, he would be laughed at in public, humbled in front of strangers, and quietly changed in a way no boardroom ever managed to do. He didn't know that the woman selling brownies on a sunny street in Austin would soon stand between him and the collapse of his career, or that a single moment of embarrassment would lead him into betrayal, power games, and a choice no amount of money could fix. This wasn't a love story that started with destiny. It started with a mistake. The joke was supposed to last 2 seconds. It lasted the rest of his life. Ethan Walker had learned very early on how to control a room. At 29, he ran Walker Tech Group with the quiet confidence of someone who'd been raised around boardrooms, private flights, and decisions that move markets. He knew when to speak, when to smile, when to wait. He knew how to make people lean in. That afternoon in Austin, Texas, he wasn't trying to do any of that. He had a board briefing in 40 minutes, 3 missed calls from his COO, and a calendar so full it felt like a dare. But instead of getting into the car parked at the curb, Ethan walked. No driver, no assistance. Just him, South Congress Avenue, and the late afternoon heat pressing down like a held breath. He told himself it was exercise. The truth was simpler. He was tired of being watched. The street was alive. Tourists drifted in slow clusters. Music spilled from open doors. Laughter floated between storefronts. Then he saw the stand. It didn't belong there. Between a vintage clothing shop and a bar blasting blues rock, a small striped awning sheltered a wooden table covered in handmade sweets. Brownies stacked in careful rows, cupcakes with imperfect frosting, glass jars of candy catching the sun like stained glass, and behind it stood a woman who didn't look up. Her brown hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, strands escaping in the heat. A plain white t-shirt, an apron smudged with chocolate. No makeup, no performance. She was adjusting a handwritten price card with the concentration of someone defusing a bomb. Ethan stopped without realizing it. He waited. 10 seconds, 20. She didn't glance up, didn't sense him, didn't care. That alone was new. "Excuse me," Ethan said finally. "One moment," she replied, still focused on the sign. He smiled, the reflexive kind that usually worked faster than words. "Sure." 30 seconds passed. "A moment is 60 seconds," she added calmly. "You still have about 20. A man nearby snorted. Someone laughed. Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. Finally, she looked up. Her eyes were sharp, curious, not impressed. "Yes," she said, professional and distant. "What can I get you?" His brain, which handled acquisitions and hostile negotiations without blinking, stalled. "Did you make all of these?" he asked, gesturing vaguely at the table. "All of them," she said. "I wake up at 4 for it." 4? He frowned. "That's inhumane." "That's dedication," she replied. "Some people don't know the difference." Another laugh from the sidewalk. Ethan grinned, caught off guard. "You're direct." "I don't have time not to be." She crossed her arms. "Are you buying or just staring?" The question landed clean. He glanced at the brownies, the cupcakes, the jars of candy. Then an idea surfaced, a familiar one, an old habit dressed as confidence. "How much for everything?" he asked. She blinked. "Everything?" "All of it. The entire stand." She studied him now, really studied him, as if deciding whether he was joking or unwell. Then she did the math in her head. "About $800, she said. "Give or take." Ethan reached for his wallet without thinking. $800 barely registered. Her eyes widened, just for a second. Then she masked it. "You're serious?" "Always," he said lightly. "When it comes to sweets." She shook her head. "Nobody's serious when it comes to sweets." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the counter, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. It was a move that had opened doors from New York to Berlin. "Let me rephrase," he said. "If I buy all of this, will you marry me?" The street went quiet. 2 seconds. Exactly 2. Then she laughed. Not a flattered laugh. Not a shy one. A real laugh. The kind that wiped tears from the corners of her eyes. "Oh my God," she said. "Does that actually work on anyone?" Ethan's smile froze. What? That line. The money. The confidence. The idea that you can buy your way past knowing someone. She leaned closer, mirroring his posture with precise irony. Does it actually work? He opened his mouth, closed it. She straightened, adjusted her apron. Listen, Prince Charming, not everything can be solved by buying it. Applause broke out behind him. Someone whistled. A teenager filmed with his phone. Ethan stepped back, his face burning. I didn't mean… You did, she said, not unkindly. And that's fine. But you picked the wrong place, the wrong person, and the wrong strategy. She slid a brownie across the counter, wrapped in parchment. On the house, for surviving the humiliation. He caught it on instinct. Go in peace, she added. And next time, try hi, my name is, before proposing marriage. Ethan walked away with the brownie in his hand and something unfamiliar in his chest. It wasn't anger. It wasn't shame. It was curiosity. He bit into the brownie as he reached his car. It was annoyingly perfect. He looked up at the Texas sky, darker now, stars beginning to show. What's her name? He murmured. The next day he came back. No jokes, no wallet tricks, just a cupcake order and a knot in his stomach he didn't know how to untangle. Her name, he learned, was Emily Carter, and for the first time in years, Ethan Walker felt like he was standing at the edge of something he couldn't control. As he paid in cash and waited patiently for his change, he wondered, quietly, if this was the moment his perfectly managed life had started to slip, and whether that made him want to run or stay. Ethan told himself he wouldn't come back a third time. Twice was coincidence. 3 times was habit, and habit was dangerous. Yet there he was again, 2 days later, slowing his steps on South Congress Avenue, as if the street itself had learned his weakness. The sun was lower now, painting the storefronts in gold, the kind of light that made everything look softer than it really was. He spotted the striped awning before he meant to. Emily Carter was already there, arranging cupcakes with the same quiet focus that had undone him the first day. This time, he waited without saying a word. She noticed. Of course she did. You're improving, she said without looking up. Most people can't handle silence. I'm practicing, Ethan replied. I was told I needed work. She glanced at him then, one eyebrow lifting. Good. Self-awareness is rare. He smiled, smaller this time. 1 cupcake, chocolate, no speeches. Growth, she said, approving. That'll be $3.50. He handed her a 20. She took it, opened a tin box, and began counting his change with theatrical slowness. Coins clinked. A pause. Another coin. A longer pause. You're enjoying this, he said. Immensely. When she finally pushed the change toward him, he scooped it up, the weight of the coins oddly grounding. He bit into the cupcake. Again, absurdly good. How do you do that? He asked. Make something taste like that. Practice, patience, and loving it enough not to rush. She tilted her head. None of which can be bought. He nodded. I know. Something in his voice made her look at him more closely. From that day on, Ethan kept showing up. Not dramatically, not loudly. He came with excuses that were almost honest. He needed a snack. He was passing by. He liked the walnut brownies. He liked the quiet way time seemed to slow at her stand. Emily noticed the pattern before she acknowledged it. You know, she said one afternoon, packing cookies into a paper bag, you don't have to invent reasons. For what? To be here. He froze. She looked up, caught him mid-thought, and smiled. I enjoy your company, she said simply. You can just say you do too. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Victory flickered across her face. Then someone else stepped into the space beside him. Emily. The voice was smooth, familiar. Wrong. Ethan turned to see a tall man with neat hair and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Emily's posture changed instantly. Not stiff, guarded. Ryan, she said. Hi. The air shifted. Ryan Miller. Ethan didn't know the name yet, but he felt the history in the way Emily's hands paused, then resumed their work a little too quickly. I was in the area, Ryan said. Thought I'd check in. I'm working. I can see that. Ryan's gaze flicked to Ethan. Didn't realize you had… Regulars. He's a customer, Emily said. A frequent one, Ethan added before thinking. She closed her eyes briefly. Ryan smiled thin. Well, I won't interrupt. He hesitated, then added, You know you can always count on me. I know, she replied, neutral. Final. Ryan left, but the warmth he displaced didn't fully return. Ethan waited a moment. I shouldn't ask. You're going to? How did you know? Because you look like someone holding a question you think might break something. He raised his hands. I won't. Good. She went back to work, movements sharper now. He realized too late he'd touched something fragile. I'm sorry, he said quietly. She stopped, looked at him, then sighed. He's my ex. 8 months. It's not complicated. It's just past. Ethan nodded. He didn't press. Something in her expression told him that was the right choice. Over the next week, something settled between them. Ethan helped badly. He dropped boxes, mixed up orders, gave the wrong change with impressive consistency. You're fired, Emily announced one afternoon. You never hired me. Exactly. So this is very efficient. She laughed more with him than she seemed to intend. He learned the sound of it, the way it softened when she was tired, sharpened when she teased. What he didn't learn how to do was stay away from work. At Walker Tech Group, the mood had changed. Mark Reynolds, his COO, watched from behind polite smiles as Ethan missed meetings, left early, and stared at his phone like it held oxygen. Mark had waited years for this. He'd always been competent, always second. And now, finally, Ethan Walker looked distracted, vulnerable. The first leak hit on a Thursday. A factory outside Austin. Hundreds of jobs. Headlines screamed cold decisions, profit over people. Ethan stared at the news in disbelief. He hadn't authorized anything. You've been unavailable, Mark said calmly when Ethan confronted him. The board needed direction. You don't leak projections as decisions. It's business. The word tasted bitter. That same afternoon, Ethan didn't show up at the stand. Emily checked the time more than she admitted, told herself he was busy. He finally arrived near closing, breathless, eyes strained. Crazy day, he said. I noticed. You mad? I'm curious. About what he did, who he was, why his watch cost more than her monthly rent. He answered vaguely. Administration, projects, things. She let it slide, but the question stayed. That night, Emily searched his name. Ethan Walker, CEO, estimated worth hundreds of millions. She didn't sleep. The next day, when he showed up smiling like nothing had changed, she felt something harden. You didn't tell me, she said. He knew instantly. I wanted you to know me first, he said, not the title. And who are you exactly? He hesitated, then told her about inheriting the company, about promises to a father who wasn't there anymore, about trying not to disappoint a ghost. Her anger cracked. Not gone, but cracked. Then the news about the factory spread louder. Customers whispered. Phones buzzed. Ethan's face went pale. He ran. Emily stood alone, the word CEO echoing in her mind like a warning bell. That night, Ryan came by with coffee and concern, planting doubts with practiced ease. Different worlds, he said. People like him don't change. Emily didn't answer. Neither did Ethan sleep, because while Emily was questioning whether she could handle his reality, Ethan was starting to realize someone was feeding Mark Reynolds exactly the information he needed. And every trail seemed to circle back to one name, Ryan Miller. The silence after Emily asked for time lasted 3 days. For Ethan Walker, it felt like a lifetime he hadn't prepared for. He tried everything he knew. He woke up before sunrise and ran until his lungs burned, hoping exhaustion would quiet his thoughts. He reorganized his office twice, including drawers no one had opened in years. On the third night, he attempted to cook dinner for the first time in his adult life and nearly set off the fire alarm, standing in his kitchen staring at a pan of ruined eggs like it had personally betrayed him. None of it worked, because for the first time, money couldn't solve the problem. Authority couldn't force an outcome. There was no contract to negotiate, no leverage to apply. There was only waiting. At Walker Tech Group, the waiting was more dangerous. Mark Reynolds didn't wait. He moved. By the end of the week, an emergency board meeting was scheduled. Leadership restructuring, the email said. Ethan read it twice, then a third time, feeling a cold clarity settle in. Mark wasn't hiding anymore. The morning of the meeting, the boardroom felt different. Too quiet, too prepared. Charts flashed on the screen, numbers framed carefully, context stripped away. Mark spoke smoothly, calmly, never accusing outright, only suggesting. Missed meetings, questionable focus, public backlash from the factory news. Ethan listened, jaw tight, recognizing the trap too late. When it ended, the board postponed any decision by 1 week. 1 week for Ethan to prove sabotage or lose everything his father had built. He left the building hollowed out, phone buzzing uselessly in his pocket. Across town, Emily was having the worst sales day she'd had in months. She mixed up orders, gave wrong change, stared at the street far longer than she should have. Her neighbor, Olivia, noticed. "You're thinking so loud I can hear it," Olivia said. "I asked for time," Emily replied, "but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it." "Then maybe it's time to stop thinking and start talking." That evening, as Emily was closing the stand, she saw him. Ethan stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, looking like someone bracing for impact. "I know you asked for space," he said. "I respected it. Mostly." "Mostly," she echoed. "I found something out," he said. "About Mark, about Ryan." Her breath caught. "So did I." They stared at each other, then spoke at the same time. Ryan's been feeding him information. The relief was instant and sharp. Not joy, recognition. They sat in a small cafe nearby, hands wrapped around cooling cups, piecing it together. Emails, timelines. A photo Olivia had taken weeks earlier of Ryan talking to Mark outside a business event. Betrayal always looked smaller once it was exposed. "I have 12 hours, Ethan said quietly. "Mark's scheduled a press conference tomorrow morning. If he controls the story, I'm done." Emily didn't hesitate. "Then we don't let him." They worked through the night. Emails pulled from backups, communication logs, patterns that finally made sense. By dawn, exhaustion blurred the edges of the world, but the truth sat clearly between them. At 10 the next morning, cameras filled the lobby of Walker Tech Group. Mark stood confident at the podium, ready to narrate Ethan's fall. He didn't see Ethan step forward until it was too late. Ethan spoke calmly, clearly. He handed evidence to journalists. Name the sabotage. Name Ryan. The room shifted. The factory closure was reversed on the spot. Applause rippled uncertainly, then grew. Mark's smile cracked, then vanished entirely. Security approached him quietly. Ethan finished not with numbers, but with honesty. He spoke about forgetting who he was beneath the title, about learning that success meant nothing if it erased the person behind it. And when he looked at Emily in the front row, his voice softened. "I don't know what the future holds," he said, "but I know who I want to face it with." Emily didn't plan to move. She just stood, walked to him, kissed him. Cameras flashed. The moment escaped the room and became something no one could take back. Mark was escorted out minutes later. The noise faded eventually. What remained was quieter. 3 months later, Ethan took his first real vacation. No laptop, no calls. A cabin in the Texas Hill Country where silence felt like healing. Emily taught him how to light a fireplace. He failed repeatedly. She laughed until she cried. They talked about promises, about fear, about building lives that made sense. Back in Austin, Emily opened a small shop. Not an empire, just a place that felt right. Ethan helped with paint and shelves and made a mess of both. 1 year after the press conference, he knelt in the middle of her shop, hands shaking, offering not wealth or certainty, but himself. Emily said yes before he finished the question, because the joke that started everything had finally grown into something real. So now that you've reached the end, how did this story make you feel? Do you believe love can truly change the way a person lives and leads? If this story touched you, comment 100 below to let me know. Tell me which country you're watching from, and if you think someone else might feel this story too, share the video with them.